Fantastic. Well, I wanted to welcome everyone to the Women Veterans Alliance, our webinar series. I'm Melissa Washington. I am a Navy veteran and the CEO and founder of Women Veterans Alliance, and welcome you all today. So if you're not familiar with an app that we've been using throughout the webinar series, it's an audience graph app, which you have access to, and it just gives you opportunity to gauge as far as your interest in the presentation, and also to give a thumbs up on different topics that are discussed throughout the presentation. If you're not familiar with our organization, we are a nationwide organization that was started in California, where I am at. And our primary focus is to connect you, the woman veteran, with each other and resources. And one of the ways that we do that is through our Wednesday webinar series, as it's a great opportunity to get you connected. If you want more information about our organization, you can visit our website, Women Veterans Alliance. Just click on join if you're interested in becoming a member. With having members, this does keep this webinar free. So again, if you're interested, please visit our website. If you are not on social media, or if you are on social media, we are on social media. We are on Facebook. We have our page. We also have a private Facebook group. We also are on Twitter, Pinterest, as well as Instagram. We have a LinkedIn page as well, and we're also on YouTube. So if you're interested in watching any of our previous webinars, you can do so on our YouTube channel. If you haven't heard, or if you've heard, the Women Veterans Unconference is our annual signature event that will take place October 8th through the 10th at the Tropicana Resort in Las Vegas. There are still seats available, and there are virtual options also available, and there are a few exhibitor spaces left. If you're not familiar with this, it's a 3-day weekend where women veterans come from across the US to connect with each other, to laugh, to cry, to get pampered. We do hair and makeup. We have a clothing boutique. We bring in horses for equine therapy, headshots. There's a lot that takes place that weekend. So if you're able to come, please come out to Las Vegas in October. Also, another thing too is we do have our Women Veterans Giving, which is our nonprofit partner. And with that, that enables us to have 2 programs, one where we send women to conferences, including our in-conference. And also too, we have a small business award where we've given over $10,000 to date to any women veteran to start or expand our business. Just last week, we finished the application period closed for those. So we will be announcing those people very shortly as far as that. But the only way we can do that is with, of course, whether it's individual donations, group donations, company donations, and more information can be found at womenveteransgiving.org. If you haven't seen it, we're launching a new magazine in January. It's going to be an annual magazine / directory. We are starting in California, and we're going to have this launched in other states. If you are interested in submitting an article, writing an article, advertising, please visit womenveteransmagazine.com, where you can find more information about this new publication that will be coming out next year. And it's for not only just women veterans, it's also for those people that support us. So that way that they can have a resource to be able to give to women veterans that they help support, as we feel it's very important that information is shared. All right, so we are wrapping up our webinar series. We have one more today, which is Get More Done in Your Day with this guided breathing exercise. And Laura will be presenting that. She's actually going to be, she's in Hawaii, so she will be sharing with us. And then next week, it's our last one of the webinar series until 2022. I highly recommend, if you're interested in attending, Phyllis Wilson. If you're not familiar with her, she is the president of the Women's Memorial out of Washington, D.C. And she is going to do a presentation on Walking to Remember in reference to September 11th. Of course, she's also going to be talking about the Women's Memorial. So without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker today. Emma Reynolds Middleton is CEO and master trainer at Soft Skills Zone. She says that Soft Skills Zone was in her heart since the 1980s when she was in college. She had a meltdown given a public speech, and that was a big turning point in her life. She is an Army veteran who devoted over 20 years working as a finance officer on active duty and the U.S. Army Reserves. Her professional career Also spans assignments at the Center for Disease Control, Georgia Department of Labor, Georgia Industries for the Blind, and in the construction industry. Emma has worked in finance, budgeting, program operations and administration, quality assurance, and workforce development, and in several leadership positions. At the same time, she has also been engaged in community affairs where she resides. For over a decade, she taught pro bono soft skill courses to adults and youth at schools and various nonprofit organizations. In 2016, Emma became an adjunct faculty at Philadelphia College of, and I'm going to probably pronounce this, osteopathic medicine, Georgia, in Swanee, Georgia. Ooh, that's a lot of words here. All right, with the School of Professional and Applied Psychology, the Organization Developmental and Leadership Program. She has taught communications for leaders, and she teaches the Team Dynamics course to graduate students seeking a Master's of Science and Biomedical Sciences. When Emma resigned from the workforce, she made a smooth transition into what she currently is doing at Soft Skills Zone, training, credentialing, and coaching others in soft skills development for their professional and personal success. So without further ado, here is Emma Reynolds Middleton.
Good afternoon, fellow veterans. I'm Emma Reynolds Middleton. I am so excited to be closing out the Wednesday webinar for this year. And I am excited about the conference that's coming up. I have not yet registered. It looks like I will be attending virtually this year. Nevertheless, I'm excited about that. And I want to thank you, Melissa, for this opportunity to share with the ladies today. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my presentation on soft skills, transferable skills. I do have the chat here, but I understand too, Melissa, that you will certainly make sure that I get anything that I miss. And thank you for jump-starting us, getting us started. If I were face-to-face, if this were an in-person session, I would start out with icebreakers. And instead of asking for polls, just to get a gauge on the audience here today, I want to ask you a few questions, and I ask that you would respond back by providing your answers in the chat. That'll help to facilitate the dialogue and sharing today. The first one is just to learn about you virtually. Would you share with me if you are an employer or if you are a staff or an employee? Just type that in the chat. Again, we'll be monitoring that. Then also, I'm interested to find out if you are currently in a leadership position. If you are, note that as well. And here are a few other questions I'd like to ask. Your status now, are you currently employed or in the workforce, whether as a business owner or in an organization? Are you underemployed or unemployed? And then lastly, well, there's actually one other, but here's a question I want to know, and I'm going to look in the chat for this. By the end of this webinar, I would like to type in the chat what your expectations are from today's webinar. And I'm going to see what you're writing there. By the end of this webinar, okay, employee not currently in a leadership position, just going back through. And Melissa started us out by asking, where are you joining from? I heard New Yorkers here, currently a state employee, okay. You want to be a better supervisor, okay. You're a team leader, okay. So there's a nice mix of veterans. Ontario, California, Air Force, welcome. Navy, welcome. Nevada, welcome. So there's a nice mix of veterans here. Excellent. And with that, I want to go back and take a look at my journey. I want to start out by just going back through it. Melissa did read my bio, and I want to just bring out some key pivotal points in my life. As she shared, I had that huge breakdown in college, in the auditorium. The auditorium was packed, 300 plus students there. And I tell you, brain fog just overtook me. And to this day, I could remember where I got stuck. And it was to expand. I was going to expand my horizon is what I was searching for. And I tell you, I was completely humiliated from that experience. By the way, you may or may not know that public speaking ranks among the top 2 or 3 fears that most people experience. And from that experience, I had to make a conscious decision. And I said to myself, Self, what are you going to do with that experience? It would have been easy for me to declare that I would never speak again in front of another audience for the rest of my life. But that just seemed too far-fetched for me. And so what I decided instead, I decided to overcome that fear by taking classes. And since this is on transferable skills and soft skills, really, I began to perfect my soft skills after that breakdown. I began, as I shared, to take classes, to take challenges, and really to stretch beyond my comfort zone. Because by my natural tendencies, if we were to look at any assessment, it would tell you that I am not the type of person who would embrace that type of challenge, but I did. And then from there, again, just to talk about the transferable skills, and I'll bring a definition to that as we move along, but in essence, it's people skills. After graduating, went on active duty, a young lieutenant, and I'm sure you all can relate whether you're officers or enlisted, right out of college as a finance officer in the Army, responsible for not only millions of dollars, but also the well-being of the troops that were assigned to me. Now, again, I'm right out of college, so that I'm early 20s. That's a huge responsibility for a young lieutenant right out of college, and to overcome any challenges in that dimension or area. I recognize the value of teamwork, of collaboration, of using critical thinking. I had opportunities to hear soldiers' stories, so it helped to build care and compassion in me and build those soft skills. So I spent 4 years on active duty, and during that time went to college. And from there, as I was preparing to enter the real world, the civilian sector, I was thinking and considering career opportunities. And the first job offer that I received was that as a teacher. And of course, at that time, I said, I'm not a teacher. I don't have a passion for teaching. That's not on my list. And so I didn't take the teaching route at that time. However, I went on and worked at various state agencies, served in the reserve, had some years to continue to work with people in the community, very passionate about my community engagement, which again gave me more time to develop those people skills. And I did that. And to fast forward, about 3 years ago now, I was looking at life beyond that of working. At this time, I was with the federal government at CDC. I was considering my next. What's my next place? What's my next move? And at a certain point, and this is probably true for all of us, at least I can say for me, I had to really assess and evaluate what was most important to me, because I was devoting time at work, devoting time with the family, devoting time in the community, just stretched all over the place. And from there, I took a sabbatical because I was offered a promotional opportunity at CDC, which would have been a wonderful move professionally. Yet it would not have brought me the satisfaction, the joy that I had seen results from not only me developing my soft skills, but then I had extended the reach to where I was providing the training, the coaching, and the sharing how-to others in the community. And so I decided, although that promotional opportunity would have provided some satisfaction, this was another stake in the ground point in my life. And from there, I went in my boss's office and I told him, I can't do it. And I must say that they sent me off very well. From there, I have come into full-time entrepreneurship and am truly embracing what I'm doing in training, going back to teaching and workforce development in the soft skills. So that is just to share some of my journey. And what that did, it brought all of those years of training on the job in the community. It brought all of my desires for really coming into a place of purpose. It brought all of the experience into a place of being centered. And during a time, a period in preparation, I put the structure in place for what I'm doing now, Soft Skills Zone. And so with that being said, I've referenced soft skills and have shared how I have actually lived a life demonstrating and experiencing soft skills on a day-to-day basis. With that being said, the question is, what are the transferable skills? What are those soft skills? These are just some, for sure not all, of the skills that are deemed transferable, deemed soft skills. There are many words that can be used to include communication skills, having strong work ethics, professionalism, empathy, problem solving, conflict resolution. That one alone requires developing. Self-awareness, emotional intelligence. These are just some examples of the transferable skills, the people skills. And so when you look at the people skills and when you begin to do a comparison of the people skills, those soft skills, those transferable skills with the hard skills, here are some difference. Now, in looking at where you are in the state level and in leadership, we have the hard skills. The hard skills, those are the technical proficiencies. Those are the skills typically that we or others attend college or tech schools to attain a certificate or a degree. And those skills and the hard skills show we have mastery in those areas. If it's IT, if it's marketing, if it's business administration, it shows that we have the book knowledge for those skills. Now, however, when we look at the soft skills, as I've shared through examples of how I have had the opportunity, whether voluntarily or not, to practice, to develop my soft skills. Those skills include, as we see here, personality traits. I'm sure in this audience, there are some women who have taken personality assessments, perhaps the DISC or the Myers-Briggs. Have anyone here? If you can, type in the chat, let me know if you've taken any type of personality assessment. Let's see, any feedback on that? And then also soft skills embraces having a growth mindset. I mean, let's just look at the landscape from this year compared to last year. It has been a tumultuous year. And we have, as leaders, as women vets, have had to really, in many cases, think outside of the box. One of the examples I really appreciated from one of my students who works in a healthcare setting, she talked about and shared how in her organization, when the pandemic first hit, of course, my hat's off to anyone in healthcare full time. I mean, it's just been and it still is an overwhelming opportunity to perform their duties. And she talked about how in her setting, her medical space, there had been a room there. And she had been with the organization for 15 plus years. And for 15 years, for whatever reason, that room, it was never occupied. And they just kind of walked by the room and paid the room no attention. It wasn't it wasn't an official storage room, but the room served no use until the pandemic. Within 48 hours, that staff had fully equipped and provided care to their patients in that room that had laid dormant, unused for 15 years. Wow, that's a growth mindset. A mindset to look at some things new. And I am sure that as leaders of organizations, as supervisors, as managers, these are some considerations you're experiencing now. Because as we are hearing about the new normal, well, the new normal for sure does contain some aspects that will be new, things perhaps we've not done before. And so it's a great opportunity to begin to look at a clean canvas, a blank canvas, and create the landscape for your organization, create the landscape for your team, as you're moving forward. And when we're looking at soft skills, one statement that holds true as we're investigating the difference between the hard skills and the soft skills, it is said, and it is true, that hard skills help you to get the job, whereas the soft skills help you to keep the job. There's one study that's by Harvard University that says 80% of job success comes to soft skill mastery. And it displays how important soft skills and the transferable skills are for leaders, how important they are for staff. Speaking of staff, I found this report very timely. There are a group of experts who did a study in 2019 and 2020 and provided a compilation of their data in January of this year. And so what the experts did for this study, they took a look at job postings. In fact, as you see, 82 million job postings from 2019 and 2020. The reason for this review was to, of course, draw some conclusions that will help hiring officials. There are some hiring officials, I'm sure, here in the webinar. And in addition to looking at 82 million job positions, they looked at vacancies and occupations across the board. In fact, 22 different vocations were reviewed, and I provided some here: business and finance, architect and engineer, management positions. They took a look at construction and healthcare, for example. And while they were doing their review, here's one of the findings that the report concluded. 64% of the positions that they reviewed required at least one transferable soft skill. What does that equate to? 52.5 million jobs require transferable soft skills. Wow. To some, this may be new. To others, this is a reminder of how important the soft skills are. When I say important, that is in developing the soft skills. And so further, as I looked at the data and looked at the information, almost 29 million positions required. And I left that blank. Now, I left it blank because it's talking about a soft skill that hiring officials and managers require from job applicants. So going back here, almost 29 million posts require. Now, remember, I provided some examples of soft skills earlier. I'd ask you to type in the chat what you think that is in terms of the soft skill that the hiring officials are asking for. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, there's some Myers-Briggs. I'm going back to the personality assessments. Some have taken both. If you would type in the chat What are your thoughts as the number one? Bam, Tracy. Awesome. Well, you know, I don't know if it's as much of a challenge for us as women, but I shouldn't say that. Communication. Wow. It doesn't matter what industry. It doesn't matter if you're in IT, if you're in construction, or if you're an administrator. It doesn't matter if you are working for the federal government, the state government. It doesn't matter any of those. What matters is that employers require communication as the leading soft skill. Now, I'm going to move down to the last point here and ask that you fill in the other, I'll call it the other transferable skill that's highly sought after and required alongside with communication. What are your thoughts with that? Communication, problem solving, good consideration. Critical thinking, okay. It's another, it can be interchanged with supervisory role. If you're in a supervisory role. Let's see, leadership. Thank you, Lakita. Leadership, that is correct. Let's see. As I'm trying to maneuver here. As I'm doing that, I do want to share some other observations. 7 of the 10 most requested skills, again, these are the job announcements, the certs, the position description that have gone out to the public. 7 of the 10 skills that employers are desiring and requiring from new hires is that of soft skills. So that supports the data that today's employers, which includes many of you here and that will be watching the webinar later, the soft skills are most key and desired by employers. Now, I know at the end I'm going to share my contact information, but I thought I would insert it here because oftentimes it's so engaging. I don't have a chance to share my contact information, but this is how you can reach me. My phone number, email address, and LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube information. I ask that you would connect with me. And of course, if you have any questions as we wrap up today, then feel free to reach out to me. The soft skill gap. At Soft Skill Zone, that's our number one mission. We spend our time investing in people to close the soft skill gap. Now, what is the soft skill gap? If you look to the left of our landscape or our, we'll call it mini mountain, M-I-N-I, mini. The left side, we'll call that left side the hard skills. And then we'll call the right side the soft skills, those people skills. The gap exists because going back to what hiring officials are looking for and what they're asking for in job descriptions, the gap is the challenge with today's talent. Today's talent, I'll give them an A+ on the hard skills. And I'm sure you can agree with that, meaning they have gone to school, they have gotten their degree, they have the technical proficiency to excel on the job, except, however, they've left the soft skills underdeveloped. Therefore, there's a gap. So what we do at Soft Skills Zone, recognizing that they have already come with the hard skills. Our part is then to provide the hard skills. Here are the hard skills. We're going to provide the soft skills. Overlap that with the hard skills, and together with the hard skills and the soft skills, what we are aiming to do is creating a well-rounded workforce that has both the hard skills and the soft skills. And so when we look at the soft skill gap, this was interesting and timely too. There was the SHRM's Talent Conference last year, and one of the presenters provided some information that I can certainly see there's not been much improvement because, again, last year was a challenging year. When I'm talking about improvement in terms of closing the gap. So there's still ample opportunity for that to happen. Well, what this executive and recruiting official did was survey all of the employees, and from their employee engagement survey, there was a consensus. 97% of employees agreed that soft skills are important, or they agreed that the soft skills are more important than the hard skill. There was a consensus there. Almost everyone said, yes, this is the case. Going back to the gap, acknowledgement of the importance is one point. Being trained in the soft skills, being developed to overcome your fear of speaking in public, being developed is another action that's required. Now, from the report, although there was agreement, 46% of new employees failed within 2 years. And to top that, almost 90% of those that did not succeed in the workforce, it was due to lack of soft skill development. And in this case, the focus was on professionalism and working together on a team. Now, let me just ask a question. Let's see, I see a chair here. Any of these? I'll get back to that question there. But I want to ask those that are in leadership or hiring roles, is this something that you agree with and or have experienced where you are? Type that in the chat for me. Is there anyone out there? As I move on, let's look at what skills, what transferable skills? What soft skills are deemed agreed? Thank you, Peggy. Peggy agrees. Thank you, Peggy. These are some of, it's not a complete list of soft skills that are in demand from today's hiring officials. Again, we've already talked about the importance of communication. Now, communications have gotten a little more complex because in many cases, teams are still working remotely. Then there's the complexity of it being a multi-generational workforce, which is here to stay, considering that as we look forward within the next 10 years, the millennials will make up at least 60% of the workforce. And when you look at the different generations, still talking about communication, all of the generations communicate differently, from the traditionalists to the baby boomers, the Gen X, the millennials. Oh, and let's remember the Gen Zers. So communication is going to be increasingly important for leaders to identify ways where everyone's on the same page, and that communication is flowing from the leadership and is flowing to the line workers, those who are experiencing the day-to-day operations of the job. And then leadership. Leadership is changing. We're going to see some shifts in leadership over the next, I would say, year or two, for the reason being many of those that are in leadership positions now are within range to retire. And in my talks with executives, in my experience, especially if they have been teleworking during the pandemic, I'm not hearing a lot of leaders that are saying they're very excited to get back in the office after they have been able to successfully perform their duties in the comforts of their home. Not only that, they've mastered balancing the work expectations, and they're getting quality time with their children whose education has been disrupted over the year because of the online virtual learning for them. And then there's the concern with the aging parents and caring for the aging parent. So many cares are on the table. So leadership is going to be changing over the next 2 years. And on that leadership, the concern is the transfer of the institutional knowledge from those who've been in those positions over the years to the young emerging leader, perhaps right out of college, or certainly with classified as a millennial. How are the leaders, today's leaders, transferring that knowledge so that there can be the continuity? Although, of course, the new leaders will bring in creativity and have growth mindset to look at the landscape differently, to provide different solutions to still accomplish the end results and accomplish the work requirements. And not to mention how important collaboration is going to increase. Again, if you're in a virtual environment, it has provided some advantages and still some challenges for those in the workforce to make sure that the team stays connected. What are some of the things if you're in a virtual or hybrid setting? What are some of the things that you're doing to provide opportunity to collaborate? I'm sure you're using online platforms and those opportunities to meet, perhaps a quick meeting first thing in the morning or at the end of the week, to make sure as leaders you're responding to and addressing the cares and concerns of your staff. There's so many opportunities to develop a team in ways we've not done before, to include using online shared spaces to collaborate, to share content, to share information. Oh, by the way, going back to communication, again, because of the generations and how the generations communicate differently. As we know, the millennial generation's best way and most comforting way to communicate is via text messaging. And then when we look at the baby boomers and Gen Zers, it is traditionally, or has been, via email. So how are you going to connect everyone so that the team is all moving together in the same direction? Is the question. And from that, as I'm preparing to close out and preparing to take on your questions, these are just some of the trends that are in our presence now, and we're going to continue to see all types of trends. And just as a point of information, what I've been sharing and looking here at women veterans experience a decrease of employment from 5.0 to 3.8 in January. So the numbers are going down, which is a positive for women veterans. I'm thinking they're using their soft skills, the resilience, the determination, the perseverance is my thought. Then we see 33% of female veterans responded to the report. It took less than 3 months, again, using the soft skills, less than 3 months to find employment. Yet, here's an observation and a trend. The highest unemployment rate were among the ages of 18 to 52 that were in school. Now, my thought is that they are in school and so they are not working. They're either in school full-time or they're in school part-time and managing other cares that they have, which leads me to the final point on the other cares. It has been a tumultuous year with the pandemic. And one thing, and a few things that have just reared up, is the importance of work-life balance. I looked at some studies in globally, as we're looking at the workforce globally. I must say, as Americans in the United States, we have been completely out of balance. So my thought is that this has been an excellent opportunity for us to reevaluate priorities, come into places of looking at doing things differently moving forward, especially when there are so many other pulls for women and then for women veterans beyond that of the job. We have, with our cape on, mastered managing all of the facets in our lives, to include our family life, include, as I shared about before, the parents, caring for our parents, child care. Schools across the U.S. are coming back into session. My daughter, fortunately, she's a young adult now. I would say that it can be concerning. I'm sure it's very concerning to you as parents with school-age children, or even if your young adults are in college, because of the indecisiveness of going back to leadership with the mask on, the mask off, virtual learning, back in the classroom, a lot of concerns. But what I want to share with you is that we have resilience as women. We have resilience as women veterans to endure the challenges that have come before us and to develop plans for what's ahead. What I can say is that Soft Skills Zone can be, if you would like, be available as a resource to provide the training, credentialing, and coaching to support to you and your staff on the transferable soft skills. And with that, I want to thank you for your time. I'm Emma Reynolds Middleton, CEO and Master Trainer and Chief People Developer. And I thank you for this opportunity to share with you ladies today. What are your questions?
Thank you, Emma. And please feel free to use the chat, or if you'd like to unmute yourself to ask Emma questions. We do have a few minutes.
There's one that says she's been home with her kids.
Emma, can you put your contact info in the chat? Oh, there we go too. Thank you.
Yes, it's been, if you can just share a challenge with the kids, how's that working out for you? SM Kramer. What are your plans for this school year? Let's see if there's...
Oh, do you want me to unmute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, with COVID, there hasn't really been, in Wisconsin, there really hasn't been much of a choice other than the kids haven't been in school. So with that, it's been accommodating the kids. The house has to be sectioned off, which we weren't really prepared for that. It's been crazy, but we got through it, and it's there's a lot of, I'm just amazed at how much management type skills, survival type skills. I know the military, I have to tell the military, if it wouldn't have been for the military, they wouldn't have trained me for this.
Right.
But we're trained for anything. But yeah, it's been a lot of organization and stuff, and on top of it, with being a nurse and everything, and trying to keep up with that. So we're surviving, and we're going back to school gradually, God willing, with this variant. Hopefully, they're going to be masking up and everything, and they're going to start off the school year and see how everything goes.
Right. All right. So you're in healthcare. You're not teleworking. You're going in the office every day?
Yeah, primarily hospital. So I've had to limit my time though because of the kids being, I've had to take some convalescent.
Okay.
When things are starting to pick up, because I've had kids. So, and I can't have them exposed to what's been going on. So.
Right. It's a challenge.
Yes.
It's a challenge. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Anyone else, any parting thoughts? Now go back to the original question in terms of your expectation. If you can type in the chat whether your expectation has been met. There were some things you were looking for, and as it relates to as a supervisor or in leadership, provide me that feedback. I'd appreciate it. Oh, you're okay. Peggy saying her supervisor seems to be afraid. Okay, using modern day technology. I don't want to draw any conclusion with that. How long has she been in the workforce, Peggy? Your supervisor? I'll ask it that way.
It looks like she's jumped off. She said she enjoyed chatting, but she's off to another meeting.
Okay. Well, on that note, I'll turn it back over to you, Melissa. And I do want to thank you for this great opportunity. It is my hope that this webinar provided value to the women veterans. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. And don't forget, everybody, we'll get this uploaded to YouTube, and then a copy will be sent out, and you've got Emma's contact information, so feel free to connect with her. Thank you again, Emma. We appreciate it.